It is 9:15, so I want to say good morning to everyone and thank you for joining us again for this third day of our UTRGV Virtual Earth Fest. My name is Marianela Franklin, Chief Sustainability Officer at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, and also with us is Mr. Jeremy San Miguel, who is a program coordinator here at the Office for Sustainability. Thank you for joining us and taking a little bit of time out of your morning to spend it with us as we celebrate Earth Fest throughout this week. So we are going to get started, and as I mentioned, Monday and Tuesday, we align sustainability with the United Nations 17 Goals for Sustainable Development. And these goals are very important to the protection of our planet, to the protection of people, and the protection of our economy. It is really important to understand the connection of all these three and why we're facing some of the challenges that we're facing today. And one of the things I wanted to bring up and mention today is that many have this misinterpretation that saving the planet, and protecting our planet is just about the wildlife in our planet, which it goes way beyond that. Having a healthy planet means having a healthy society and having a healthy economy. These are all tied together. So it is really important that we protect everything within our environment, within our planet. All the natural resources that we extract from our planet are critical to life, not just our life, but also the life of the planet and the life of our economy, because it's all tied together. So this is one of the reasons why this week is very important to us and why we've selected the 5 sustainable development goals that are specifically about the protection of our environment. If you take a look at this, you can see there's 4 quadrants. The two on the bottom are specific to society. They're all social sustainability. The 4 on the right, the top right, are about sustainable economic development. These are goals that we need to look at and contribute to in order to have a healthy economy. But the 5 on the top left are for the environment. And this is why we have chosen to use these 5 as a theme for the entire week. And we hope that you joined us on Monday and Tuesday. If you didn't, we are recording these sessions so that you can view them at a later time with your friends and family. So today we are covering Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which is life below water. And we have several wonderful sessions for you, very short sessions, short videos, short presentations. But I want to highlight that today we do have students who will be presenting to you, as well as our faculty champions who are specifically looking at areas within our coastal area or research projects within our coastal area that help us understand some of the challenges we're facing there and some of the solutions that we will be looking at, sustainable solutions to take care of our coastal area and life below water. So we're going to get started right away, and we will start with a very short video that explains Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which is to conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources for the sake of sustainable development. So Jeremy, if you could start us off with the first video, and then we can take it from there. Thank you.
Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. The sea isn't just that paradise where we can get lost and rest. Oceans and seas regulate climate, produce oxygen, and give us food. Moreover, they generate employment for more than 200 million people. They are fundamental to counteract climate change, absorbing 30% of the CO2 we produce. However, pollution and destruction of its habitat damage submarine life and our own. And the increase of climate disasters is directly related. We have to stop it. Afroz Shah started one day and hasn't stopped until he created a revolution. This young lawyer of Mumbai acquired a house on a beach that he found filled with waste. He wanted to act decisively, and he encouraged his 84-year-old neighbor to clean and shared his work in social media. A multitude of volunteers, from students to Bollywood stars, united for the cause. Until now, more than 4,000 tons of waste have been taken from the 2.5 kilometers of beach. What started as a small action has saved a part of the ecosystem. In 2016, Shah was named Champion of the Earth, Inspiration and Action. Do you want to start your own little revolution? 1. Reduce as much as possible the use of toxic substances, plastics, and non-biodegradable materials at home and at work. Eliminate the use of plastic bags by using fabric bags. 2. Never buy forbidden products such as coral jewelry, shells, or products derived from sharks. 3. On the beach, pick up your waste. Educate your children and organize cleaning excursions. 4. Shop for safe and sustainable fish products. Avoid species in danger of extinction, such as red tuna, or those captured with methods such as drag fishing. 5. Practice aquatic sports such as scuba diving, kayaking, submarine fishing, or surfing in a responsible way, and always take care of the environment. The ocean wouldn't be the ocean without all the drops that create it. Let's unite our forces.
So we are going to move forward to our next video, which is actually our next presentation, which is coming from our students from the Mathematics and Science Academy. They are ambassadors for sustainability, and they took on the initiative as ambassadors to map out all the sustainable development goals here in the Rio Grande Valley. One of the things we find is that many of us just don't realize how much sustainable development is already occurring here in the Rio Grande Valley. And so these students created teams, and they chose a goal that they would research and take a look at all the organizations, all the agencies, nonprofit organizations that are contributing and working to protect life below water. This is valuable information because, again, we have many faculty and students here within our university who reach out to community members to partner in doing research and conducting projects that help specifically in this area. And sometimes we're unaware of just how many are out there and where they're at and who they are. So these students have basically done an asset map of the sustainable development goals here in the Rio Grande Valley. And today we're going to listen to the presentation from Delanie, Sanchez, and Seema Shaheen, who specifically worked on life below water. They are very talented and knowledgeable students, and I have to tell you, they did an incredible job. And I think you're going to be surprised to see just how much we have here in the Rio Grande Valley in terms of organizations and agencies working towards this effort, working towards sustainable development in this area. Thank you. And Jeremy, if you could please share their presentation.
Hello, my name is Seema Shaheen. And I'm Delanie Sanchez. And today we will be presenting on the Rio Grande Valley's use of ocean and marine resources for sustainability. We are working on Goal 14. Goal 14 is about preserving marine life and coastal areas. There are measures we need to take to avoid species depletion, pollution, and overfishing. South Padre Island is a town in Texas that is deeply committed to the conservation of the ocean and its marine life. I will now pass it on to Seema, who will share some nonprofit organizations with you all. To begin, we have Sea Turtle Inc. What they do is they rescue, rehabilitate, and release injured sea turtles, as well as educating the public and assisting with conservation efforts for all marine turtle species. Here are some photos we have attached of their work. Another location we have is the Dolphin Research and Sea Life Nature Center. What they do is they educate the public regarding bottlenose dolphins, and which are native to the Gulf of Mexico, and they promote public support. The next location we have is the UTRGV Coastal Studies Laboratory. They provide educational opportunities, enhance research, engage in public service, and provide community outreach to coastal and marine concerns. They are also a member of the Port Isabel Regional Headquarters of the Texas Marine Mammal Stranding Network. Our next location is the Conservation Wrangler program by Texas by Nature. What they do is they work to increase exposure and scientific research. And here we have some of their accomplishments, one being that they've provided 537 jobs for RGV residents. Here are some photos. The South Padre Island Birding and Nature Center and Alligator Sanctuary educates the public about the birds of SPI and its flora and fauna and the natural resources and environment of SPI. The Friends of RGV create self-sustaining artificial reefs in order to increase fish population. Here we have some pictures of the artificial reef they've created. Sandcastle Inc. Raises a series of public about beach conservation and nourishment through activities and festivals. We also have Costa Cleanups, which removes trash from the shore. They've even removed up to 40,000 pounds of trash and have cleaned 13 full miles of South Padre Island. The Sierra Club promotes climate solutions and conservation. They oppose a gas export terminal that aims to be built in the UTRGV. Now I'll be passing this on to Delanie, who will complete our locations.
Next, we have the Valley Environmental Coalition. This organization identifies environmental issues and potential solutions. They hold annual beach cleanups, and they have brought together community members and nonprofits to highlight the Valley's environmental programs for over 10 years. Next, we have Seal Coast. This nonprofit works to process and resell scrap to be used in manufacturing industries, and they recycle ocean-going vessel from around the world. Next, we have RGV's Fishing Area and Waterway Cleanups. This is a domestic nonprofit corporation that conducts cleanups of fishing areas and waterways. They conduct 10 to 12 cleanups per year. Then we have the Red Tide Rangers. This is a volunteer group that monitors Texas coastal waters for the presence of harmful algal blooms. Next, we have the Arroyo, Colorado Watershed Partnership. Their mission is to meet state water quality standards and improve the natural aquatic habitat associated with the Arroyo, Colorado watershed. They plan to reduce the additions of known pollutants by 10 to 20% over the next 15 years, and plan to improve the awareness and understanding of the water quality issues associated with the Arroyo, Colorado. Here we have some logos and our citations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think they did an incredible job. If any of you who are attendees at the moment and may have any other resources, if they may have missed something, please contact our office and let us know. This next semester, this entire group of students will be creating an interactive map to be placed on our website that showcases the sustainable development goals here in the Rio Grande Valley. And so if anyone has any further resources after watching these videos, please send them our way so we can make sure to include them. We want this interactive map to be a great tool and resource for the entire Rio Grande Valley, especially for those conducting research and wanting to establish partnerships for the sake of service learning and community partnerships. So thank you, Delanie and Seema. This was an incredible presentation. I'm not sure if they're in the audience with us today, but we do have several sustainability ambassadors who are still working on a couple of the goals, and we hope to complete this project this semester to start the actual map next semester. So excellent job coming from our sustainability ambassadors at the Mathematical Science Academy. Thank you so much. So next we have a very short video, but very important video that is narrated by Morgan Freeman. He's here to share life below water and share the new species that has appeared in life below water and the impact this new species is having. So I'm going to ask Jeremy to share this video. And again, it's very short. And then from there, we'll go on to hear from our faculty experts. Thank you.
Dominating every corner of the Great Sea, the ocean's newest inhabitants are making their permanent mark on life below water. The creatures in this fascinating species do not have brains, teeth, or even simple nervous systems. But miraculously, they can travel for hundreds of miles and live to be over 1,000 years old. Plastics. Although they look noticeably different from the other sea-dwelling animals, they're doing their best to fit in. Some of them dance. Some of them play. They form bonds. They hunt. Some of them are even known to fall in love. And so we turn to the smallest of the species, microplastics. They might look harmless, but these tiny terrors will go on to kill over 1 million fish every single year. Not bad for a predator with no teeth. With their impenetrable bodies, alluring theatrics, and unwavering perseverance, the plastic species is quickly becoming a threat to life below water. Beautiful, isn't it?
We will move forward with the next presentation, which is a presentation from a gentleman that has videos in the Texas bucket list. And one of his videos is regarding Sea Turtles Inc., which you heard in a presentation from our ambassadors. And this is particularly about cold stun rescue and release, a very important creature in our coastal area and one that is very important to protect. And so we're going to hear from this gentleman in the Texas bucket list. So Jeremy, if you could please share again another short video to watch.
Howdy, and welcome to the Texas Bucket List, the show dedicated to everything you have to experience right here in the Lone Star State. My name is Shane McAuliffe, and today we're talking turtles. You know, a few years back, we crossed off these incredible sea creatures down at a hatching release in Corpus, but we found another way to interact with these amazing animals down on South Padre Island at Sea Turtle Inc. The sands of South Padre Island are a stupendous summer stop on the Texas bucket list. But when you're down on the island, it doesn't all have to be about sand and surf. If you're up for something that will get you out of your shell, situated smack dab on the center of South Padre is Sea Turtle Inc.
These people are very passionate about what they do.
Since 1992, Jeff George has had a role in keeping this Texas treasure on its totally tubular turtle mission.
Sea turtles are an endangered species. They live in and around South Padre Island. Our mission is to treat the injured turtles and release them. We also take care of all the nesting activities on South Padre. And one of our big components is creating public awareness.
Throughout the year, injured sea turtles make their way to Sea Turtle Inc. via volunteers and regular folks who come across turtles in a tight spot along Texas beaches.
We've seen some horrific injuries and animals make it. We've seen turtles released as juveniles finally come back and lay eggs as a mom. And so these are very heartwarming stories, but they're amazing animals.
It was 1977 when the Sea Turtle Sanctuary got its start by a woman affectionately known as the Turtle Lady. Isla Fox Letcher started all of this in her backyard, and thanks to donations, it's grown into what it is today.
So this is the educational center that we've made for public awareness, education, and these are turtles that can't be released. So these tanks go from 20,000 to 55,000 gallons of water, seawater that's filtered continuously. These are tanks large enough to send a diver, a human being, into the tank with turtles that aren't going to be released, much like aquariums. But it presents the opportunity for people to actually communicate with somebody actually in there with the turtle. What's that skin feel like? How hard is that shell? What does this turtle eat? So it's a great way to engage kids and the public and let them see people interacting with sea turtles.
Getting a good look at these loggerheads, hawksbills, Kemp's grizzly, and green sea turtles is a terrific treat. But seeing the work that's done here will make you flap your flippers.
Well, this is the kind of spa treatment that turtles like.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Nina Navi is a bit newer here, and she sticks her neck out when it comes to her passion for turtles.
I love talking about sea turtles. I love talking about sea turtle rehab. I think it's great that the public can actually come here and see these injured animals, hear their stories, which 9 times out of 10, they're here for human-related reasons, whether it be entanglement, fishing hooks, hit by boats. So I think it's really important for people to come here and actually see these turtles in various stages of the rehabilitation process.
So who do we have here?
So this is Princess Anna. She stranded about a month ago. She was trapped in the rocks at our jetties here on South Padre Island. Sometimes that happens with the turtles, and it creates these abrasions on her plastron, which is the bottom half of her shell.
Princess Anna, how'd y'all name this one?
Actually, whoever finds the turtle, whoever rescues it, gets to name it.
Ah.
So not sure the origin of Princess Anna. That's why we have a couple of bizarre turtle names here.
It's gonna be interesting when you have to let her go.
Oh, God.
Thank you, I'm here always. Much like a turtle in a race, the slow and steady work of rehabilitating these sea creatures is a thorough process.
She's eating really well. Her blood looks great. X-rays look good. So she's on the way to recovery.
All right. Well, bye, Anna.
Others take a bit more time with injuries that really make you realize how resilient turtles can be.
As you can see, she has an old shark bite wound right there that actually took a chunk out of her shell, and she's missing part of her right hind flipper from that shark bite. This turtle was found floating, buoyant in our shipping channel out here. It has a lot of gastrointestinal gas. This turtle also is severely emaciated, so very underweight. You can see her bones and tendons here in her neck, which normally should not be visible in a healthy turtle.
It's amazing a shark can take a chunk out of her shell like that and she survived.
Yeah, sea turtles are incredibly resilient. I mean, they'll survive things that a mammal would never survive.
These are amazing animals. They can recover from some horrific injuries where they're nearly sliced in half, or propellers going all the way to the lung, and they're making remarkable recovery. Honestly, it's that they are such amazing, hardy, resilient animals that they can recover with a little bit of human help.
Considering these animals have been hanging out on South Padre long before spring break was a thing, keeping the reptiles regulars is part of the mission here. That's why volunteers scour the beaches, making sure nests are marked and properly cared for.
That's the legacy we're leaving, is helping this population recover and keep the species alive. None of us make a lot of money. None of us ever will. But we're passionate about our oceans. We're passionate about the sea turtles in our oceans. And that's what drives us every day. That's what gets us up in the morning. That's what keeps us up at night with the hatchlings. And so many of us are working 15, 16-hour days because we love what we do.
So if you're passionate about sea turtles or simply want to see some folks that are, Sea Turtles Inc. on South Padre Island is well worth a stop on the Texas bucket list.
I think it's just really important for people to actually see what the impact is on wildlife that we're having, and they're able to connect with those animals. So we're taking little steps, hopefully, to make a big change.
Until you're nose to nose or up close and personal with a sea turtle, you just don't get the sense of how magnificent, how beautiful they are, how majestic they are, how prehistoric they are, until you can lay eyes on them.
So Jeremy's going to share another video which has to do with the hatchlings. immediately after this one. And I just hope that you really enjoyed this video. This is something we have here in the Rio Grande Valley. And as I mentioned to you all before, it is part of our economy, protecting our wildlife, protecting our coastal areas, protecting these creatures is part of $850 million a year that comes to the Rio Grande Valley in ecotourism. So it's not just about protecting the planet and protecting our health, it's also about protecting our economy. It all links together. So thank you for watching this video with us. And next, Jeremy's going to show you another short clip so you can see what it looks like when these creatures are hatching. It's really impressive.
Absolutely, Ms. Franklin. It'll definitely give you something to celebrate.
Celebrate. Good one, Jeremy. So I hope that you enjoyed those two short videos. And I'm sorry I had the wrong video. I was talking about hatchlings when it was actually a catch and release, a rescue and release. I think we shared the hatchling one last year. Yes, I'm getting all my years all confused now. But thank you for being with us and watching these wonderful presentations and videos. I hope that they are inspiring to you. This is something we have in our own backyards and something we really need to consider, protecting. So if you're passionate about this and you can volunteer your time, that would be wonderful. I know that we all love to visit South Padre Island. We love to go to Sea Turtle Inc. and see the turtles, but it is even that much more fun to volunteer time and actually work with the individuals that are there on a daily basis working with these turtles. And I guarantee you will enjoy it. So thank you. And next we are going to move forward with some presentations from our subject matter experts and our sustainability champions who here at the university are actually conducting research and working with our students to take a look at some of those challenges that we face here in the Rio Grande Valley and really get to the root of the problem, to understand the problem prior to creating sustainable solutions. So one of those individuals who you may have already heard in yesterday's presentations is Dr. Christopher Gabler, who I believe is with us this morning. So immediately after his presentation, we will go to Q&A. Dr. Gabler is an assistant professor from the School of Earth, Environmental and Marine Sciences and has a joint appointment with the Department of Biology. And today he is presenting on sea level rise and climate impacts in the Rio Grande Valley coastal line. So we're going to ask Jeremy to share the presentation, and then we're asking that you please ask your questions either on the chat box or in the Q&A. And if you really want to voice out your question, please let Jeremy know by raising your hand so he can unmute you so you can have a conversation with Dr. Gabler. Thank you. And Jeremy, if you could please go ahead and begin that presentation.
Dr. Chris Gabler, an assistant professor in SEAMS and the Department of Biology, and I'll be talking about sea level rise and the impacts of climate change in the Rio Grande Valley. Let's start by reviewing a few key aspects of climate change. First is that climate change is already here. It's no longer a future concern. It's on us, and it will get worse. The critical question is, how much worse? Our actions now will ultimately decide. Temperatures will increase by about 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, more in some areas. There will be major changes in precipitation. Generally, wet areas get wetter, dry areas drier. There'll be more volatility and fewer but bigger storms. Sea level will rise 40 to 80 centimeters by 2100. We can also expect more intense storms, more category 3, 4, and 5 hurricanes, and more natural disasters like wildfires, as well as more extreme events like more and longer heat waves, droughts, and combined events. First, we focus on sea level rise. And here we see the predicted rise by the end of this century under 5 different emission scenarios. RCP 2.6 is very optimistic. RCP 8.5 is the business as usual scenario, where emissions continue to grow as they have to date till the end of the century. RCP 4.5 and 6.0 are intermediate. The gray boxes are the range of predictions under each scenario, and the central black bars are the average of all predictions for each. Most models predict 40 to 50 centimeters of sea level rise by 2100, but it could be over 60 and as high as 80 centimeters. I've included an illustration of an average sized person to help visualize how much this is. The darker lines over the person correspond to the average predictions from the different emission scenarios. I also added a dog with a snorkel, which is sized to scale, to remind you that humans are not the only living things that are impacted by sea level rise. Here are the different long-term predictions for sea level rise, again broken down by factor, with the total shown as the dark red bands. You can see immediately, just from looking at the human icons drawn to scale, that the situation gets much more dire by the year 2500. In the lowest emission scenarios, which we are not on track to achieve, we might see only 1 meter of sea level rise. In the medium scenarios, we expect increases more in the range of 1 to 2 meters. In the higher scenarios, which is where we'll go if we continue on as we are currently, we expect seas to rise by at least 2 and as much as 7 meters, which is 23 feet. The biggest threat to humans is flooding and all the damage that floods can cause to homes, businesses, infrastructure, and even agriculture. So this figure shows how much more often we expect flood events to become if there's either a 50 centimeter increase in sea level, shown by the top map, or the projected sea level rise for the lower of the medium emission scenarios on the bottom. So this is conservative, but still, we see flood events being 1,000 times more frequent in certain island nations and in some coastal cities. The closest dot to the RGV is the turquoise dot over Houston, which means that any flood event of a given intensity is expected to become 10 times more frequent. So imagine those 100-year floods that insurance maps are based on. This means that those 100-year floods will be 10 times more frequent, meaning they're likely to happen every decade, not every century. Now let's focus on the RGV. The maps I'm showing come from the NOAA Sea Level Rise mapping tool, which you can explore on your own at the website shown. Here we'll look broadly at the lower Laguna Madre. On the left is the current coastline. On the right, in the lighter shades of blue, are those areas that will become submerged with just 1 meter, 3 feet of sea level rise. Now, this is the high end of what we might expect this century, but it's the low end of our longer term predictions. And we can see that a lot of the coastal areas, wetlands, and beaches will be underwater, but it doesn't reach too far inland. Now we see the coastline with 2 meters or 6 feet of sea level rise. And this is not going to happen this century, but it's very realistic, even for the medium emission scenarios over the next few hundred years. Now we see that basically all the low-lying coastal areas are underwater, and quite a lot of land has been lost. This includes the coastal habitats that we love and that draw both people and wildlife from all over the world to the Rio Grande Valley. Here we've zoomed in on Port Isabel, and it's the same story. With a meter of sea level rise, we see coastal wetlands, beaches, and other low-lying areas submerged. A few parts of town are in trouble as well, but don't forget that this is just from mean sea level. Now imagine how Port Isabel would be impacted by a hurricane. What about a category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane, which will be more frequent in the future? With 2 meters of sea level rise, things do not look good for Port Isabel. Not only is a lot of the city submerged, they've got no coastal wetlands to protect them from storms or reduce storm surge from hurricanes. All property and structures in Port Isabel will be at great risk of flooding, and any new construction will have to be very different from what it is now. And the same is true for South Padre Island. With 1 meter of sea level rise, you would lose coastal wetlands, including key attractions like the Birding and Nature Center, as well as the beaches. Adding sand to maintain the beaches may not be feasible. Parts of Padre Boulevard and low areas of town would also be underwater. With 2 meters, only the highest parts of town would not be submerged. And again, they would have far less protection from storms and flooding. Infrastructure like seawalls and levees might help hold the water back, but could we even build them in time? And could we afford them? Consider the fact that every coastal area will be trying to do the same. I mentioned coastal wetlands several times, and these are very important and very valuable habitats. They exist in the intertidal zone, which is basically the land that's above the waterline at low tide, but submerged at high tide. So in theory, we'll lose wetlands as sea level rises, but new wetlands should form in what becomes the new intertidal zone at higher elevations. But there are 2 problems. First, sea level is rising way faster than ever before, so some wetlands are drowning before they can spread uphill. Second, we've blocked in most of our wetlands. That is, we've created barriers that prevent wetlands from migrating to higher elevations. This includes homes, roads, levees, and other flood control structures, etc. The end result is that we're losing a ton of coastal wetlands to sea level rise, and this is a very big problem. Coastal wetland loss is a really big deal because coastal wetlands are the poster child for things we call ecosystem services. These are things that natural environments, ecosystems do, just by virtue of being ecosystems, that directly and meaningfully benefits human society. So coastal wetlands provide us with storm protection, they reduce erosion, they help us treat waste, including nutrient pollution, they provide essential wildlife habitat, including for endangered species, they support commercial and recreational fisheries, they help catch and clean our water, they provide engines for recreation and ecotourism, which is so big in the valley, and they're great. They are the kings of carbon storage. We talked a lot about carbon storage at yesterday's event. Coastal wetlands are the best place to store carbon. We can calculate the dollar value of ecosystem services that coastal wetlands provide. And altogether, they generate almost $5 million per square kilometer per year, just by being wetlands, no development. This is nearly 10 times more than the value of ecosystem services provided by tropical rainforests. And I don't need to convince you or anyone else that tropical rainforests are valuable. But that's just part of the story. What happens to the coastal wetlands that survive sea level rise? I've been studying exactly this for about 8 years. In South Texas, we have all 4 of the plant functional groups that dominate wetlands all across the world. The species differ, but it's always these same 4 groups. Graminoids, which are grasses, sedges, and rushes. Mangroves are trees adapted to the intertidal zone. Succulents have fleshy leaves or stems and can tolerate really salty soil, and unvegetated mudflats that sometimes have algae mats. My research has shown that there are tipping points for both temperature and rainfall, where, if they're reached, things change very quickly and dramatically. For temperature, if winters become warm enough, grassy marshes are replaced with mangrove forests. For rainfall, dry conditions drive losses in vegetation, and we'll have fewer plants, smaller plants, and more unvegetated areas. We can actually predict how much a given change in climate will influence the 4 key plant functional groups, or predict the composition of wetlands for a given set of climate conditions. But the subtleties of our climate models are beyond the scope of this talk. Suffice it to say that entire regions of the US Gulf Coast are already at these tipping points now. And 2 to 4 degrees of warming and even modest changes in rainfall will drive entire regions of the US Gulf Coast across these thresholds, transforming those coastal wetlands that we have left. And because coastal wetlands across the world have the same 4 plant functional groups, many other regions are subject to the same marsh to mangrove transitions and losses in vegetation. Here's an illustration of this process. Graminoids at lower elevation are replaced with mangrove trees, and higher elevations have more succulents. But past the rainfall threshold, we have fewer and smaller plants and more unvegetated areas. But the lower Laguna Madre was at the bottom of that picture. Where do we go from here? We are on that rainfall tipping point. Well, we're not sure. We're actively studying this by moving rainfall around in coastal wetlands in South Texas and the Texas Coastal Bend. If our models are correct, we can expect a 20% loss of vegetation and more without good resource management. That's a big deal. These plants are the foundation of coastal food webs. 20% less vegetation can mean 20% fewer birds and fish and everything else. And this really matters for people, for everyday folks and coastal communities, because the types and the amounts of plants govern the types and the amounts of those ecosystem services that coastal wetlands provide. Thank you for listening and joining us for the UTRGV Earth Fest.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gabler. Your presentations are always so informative and so important to, as you mentioned, ecosystem services, so important to the health of our communities. So we're going to open up for Q&A. If there are no questions, we're going to allow Dr. Gabler to say a few words to wrap up his presentation. I'm just interested in maybe if you have the opportunity to share a little bit about the interaction of this type of work with your students and the type of experience that our students are getting through this type of research. This is very valuable research. Again, without this information, we would have no clue as to what is happening and what to expect in the future. And so this is really important piece of education and experience for our students as they graduate and go out into the workforce, because they end up with all this knowledge and how to conduct research, which is so important today based on all the challenges we're facing. So I'm going to stop talking. Jeremy, do we have any questions? If not, so Dr. Gabler can share a few words before we move on to our next presentation.
So we do have one question. This video absolutely will be available to rewatch. We post it on the website right after Earth Fest is completed. So thank you, Regina. Number 2, I will kind of maybe simplify it a little more. We would like your opinion on, Dr. Gabler, regarding coastal habitats and kind of infrastructure that's built around that. Specifically asked was SpaceX, but I think infrastructure in general and how that may affect.
Yeah. Great questions. And Marianella, thanks. I'll say briefly, we've had a lot of students participate in this project. Over 12 students were supported. I'm sorry, across all universities, over 12 students, graduate students and a few undergraduate students were involved in the setup and operation of this project. Even more sort of have spent time at these sites, spent a little bit of time setting up, even though they didn't play sort of a long-term involved role in this project. But we've had, I think, 14 different students here and at UTRGV visit these sites and work on these sites at some point, including a few students participating in the High Scholars Research Program. So from high school to master's level, and a lot of undergraduates, of course, as well. Lots of students have been involved, and there's always room for students to get involved. So yeah, you can definitely do, I see one question, science like this at the master's level, even if you have a degree in something besides marine science. So as far as infrastructure goes, we love to live on the coast. Humans, we have a very strong impact. I think something like 80% of humans live within 50 kilometers of a body of water. And so we're definitely, our population density is definitely highest closest to the coasts, which is one reason why sea level rise and storms are such a big deal for so many people. And, you know, a lot of the infrastructure we build is to keep humans and our property safe. And a lot of those are not necessarily good for these natural ecosystems that have evolved to get flooded sometimes and get regular inputs of sediment, things like that. So it takes some careful design and some careful planning and smart building and smart human development. And we know how to do this well and better than we have to make sure that they're not in such direct conflict. But still, you know, having a large human presence on the coast absolutely does affect ecosystems, even with good design. SpaceX is a whole can of worms. I've actually been contracted by SpaceX as one of the people to do their environmental impact assessments. And according to our contracts, we can only submit our findings to them and then they report them. And you might have heard recently that SpaceX had their FAA permit removed or their new application taken out of process because they hadn't been turning in the necessary or making the necessary environmental impact statements and providing the necessary reporting to the agencies that oversee this. And I've got to say that that's something that that's happening internally with them because myself and my colleagues, we definitely provided them with the necessary information to file those reports. Their impacts have been relatively small until the activity at the Boca Chica launch site really boomed in the last 2 years. If you were a casual observer, and I can't go into the details of this contracted work I've done with SpaceX, but a casual observer would have seen that not much was different until things really started to expand. And then it's very obvious if concrete's been poured in a wetland 1 year that wasn't there before, that's an obvious direct effect on those coastal systems. And as you know, they've been increasing testing and flights, and quite a few rockets have exploded, and those have dropped debris in the coastal salt flats and dune systems and shore systems. And those needed to be cleaned up, which they involved heavy machinery, and that obviously, you drive heavy machinery in any natural system, it's going to affect ground and wildlife that lives there. So there have been, even to the most casual observer, a lot more environmental impacts since their operations really expanded. But where that's going remains to be seen. That's something that's actively getting decided right now. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to pay attention to the news because that's something that's sort of developing in real time presently. Sorry for the long answer, Jeremy.
No, it's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for sharing all that detail.
I think as a closing call of action to our audience, Dr. Susie Villegas asked, what are actionable, behaviors that we can do to improve our coastal life, our ecological footprint, if you may say, things that we can maybe enact in our own responsibility.
That's a great question, and that's a long answer too. But I've been asked this enough that I have a short answer ready, right? So if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, there are a few things that you can do right away. In terms of where most of our carbon comes from, if you drive less, that's kind of the first and biggest thing, is to drive less, walk more, carpool more. If you can afford a more fuel efficient car, do it, because that's the average American's, one of their biggest sources of carbon is driving. Fly less if you can. You know, a road trip is better than a flight most of the time, especially if you're carpooling. So fly less if you can. Also, one of the other major sources is energy consumption at home. So I don't know if it's the easiest way, but one of the most effective ways to reduce your home energy consumption is to cool your house less in the summer and warm your house less in the winter. You know, put on a sweater, run a ceiling fan instead of central air. Those are dramatically less energy requiring and can often achieve a similar amount of comfort. And think about your diet is the last thing, right? So moving towards a plant-based diet is a major way you can reduce not just carbon footprint, but water requirements. So even just minor reductions, if you eat a lot of beef or lamb, just reducing red meat consumption can have a very profound effect on your ecological footprint. You know, not everybody needs to go vegan overnight for us to see really big changes, right? Just reducing meat consumption, switching to from beef to chicken or fish can have a major effect as well. So those are the 4 big ways we can immediately reduce our carbon footprint. Great question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gabler. That was an awesome short answer that, like you said, we could go on and on with all these wonderful tips. So I do encourage everyone to check out the sustainability website for those type of tips as well. We have webinars, and we also have guides on with checklists on how you can reduce your carbon footprint. And every little step counts, every little thing counts, because it will provide you a healthier, happier lifestyle. And let's just face it, people love to follow successful people, and success is measured through happiness and not wealth. And so when they see you transforming into that happier, healthier you, people are going to want to follow your footsteps, regardless of whether it's for sustainability or not. They're going to say, I want to drink that Kool-Aid, whatever she's drinking, I'm having. And so that is a perfect model to share with, you know, your loved ones, and especially with children, because these habits begin at a very early age. So I'm sure everybody wants to make sure that your children or their children and loved ones are living happier, healthier lifestyles. Thank you so much, Dr. Gabler. We're going to move on to our next presenter. We really appreciate you continuing to support Earth Fest and bringing us all your incredible work and sharing all this with us. Thank you so much. Our next presenter is Ms. Shelby Bessette, and she is a program manager at the School of Earth, Environmental and Marine Sciences at the South Padre Island Coastal Studies Lab. She has a great passion for the protection of the coastal area, and her presentation today is regarding plastic pollution and nurdle patrol. So you did hear a little bit about these nurdles in the presentation in the video narrated by Morgan Freeman, and now she's going to give you a little bit more detail about what that looks like and how we can help with this issue over in our coastal area. So Jeremy, if you could please share. Is Shelby with us by any chance?
No, ma'am, I believe they're otherwise engaged.
Okay, thank you. So if you could please share her presentation, and then we'll move on from there to start wrapping up our session today.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone, and happy Earth Day. My name is Shelby Bessette, and I work at the UTRGV Coastal Studies Lab on South Padre Island. And today I'm here to talk to you about plastic pollution, and more specifically, nurdles and nurdle patrol. So the way to find out about nurdle patrol is you want to go to nurdlepatrol.org. So I will share that screen with you. So Nurdle Patrol is a citizen science project, and this is run by the UT Marine Science Institute in Port Aransas. started up by Dr. Jace Tunnel. So if you have any questions, you can email him here, jace@utexas. However, the website has lots of good information about nurdles. And before we learn about how to do the nurdle patrol, I want to tell you a bit about what they are. So this is another website. I actually just Googled life cycle of a nurdle and came up with this. This is called oceanmimic.com. So nurdles are pre-production plastics that are made into other plastics. So they're these lentil size pellets and they're melted down into other products. It could be a reusable heavy duty water bottle or maybe one of those very, very flimsy water bottles. So there are all types of nurdles. You can see in this picture, they call these fresh nurdles, meaning that they haven't been out in the environment very long. So they're almost white, clear, transparent. And then the weathered nurdles are darker in color. They've absorbed different pigmentations. There are also colored nurdles for different types of products where you might want colored plastic. Some things that are similar are a BB gun pellet here, polyester or other like styrofoam balls, maybe a seed, and then some other fragments. So there's lots of microplastics that are fragmented because they've been broken down into little pieces. So sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out which one is a nurdle, but you can just do your best with that when you go on your nurdle patrol. So why do we care about these nurdles? Well, what's happening is they're actually getting out during transport. So a lot of times we see these near big ports like Houston, Port Aransas, and even here in our Brownsville port, we have seen pellets on our beaches. So we're trying to figure out, are they coming from transportation in the port or are they floating in with the ocean and the tides? And so this is why this project is important, and collecting these nurdles could lead to finding out point sources of pollution, which also basically means finding which factories are the ones spilling these out. So the making the nurdles happens in the factory. They might get spilled on transit, so that's a truck. These nurdles are made into bottles and other things. They're melted together. So essentially they're kind of like recycled. Or spills at sea can happen. So this is a cargo ship. And so same kind of thing, that it goes back around to the life cycle of the nurdle, is that the plastics are getting melted down and spilled on transport. So they do float, and that's how it's easy for them to wash in with the shore. There's different studies on if there's bacteria on them and other kind of chemical adhesives that may be adhering to the plastics. And then, the big concern is that these are moving up the food chain from fish eating it or other organisms, marine organisms, and then we eat fish. So that is why we're concerned. Okay, so nurdlepatrol.org. I have a video I'm going to play for you guys of our nurdle patrol, but the key thing here is on your own time, I want you all to go to Nurdle Patrol Training 101. You can Google that, you can go to YouTube, put that in, or just go right here to nurdlepatrol.org and it'll be on the home page. And you can just click this.
This is Nurdle Patrol Training.
And Jace will tell you the proper protocol, but the basics of it is it's a 10-minute survey. It doesn't have to be on the beach. It could be near another waterway, a resaca, a creek, or even a railroad, since these are getting out during transport. So feel free to sample in your area for 10 minutes. And I will show you a video of what ours looks like in just a moment. Let me tell you how to submit the data. So I'm going to zoom into our site. So we went out in front of the Coastal Studies Lab. So we're at the end of the island in the Isla Blanca Park. You just zoom in. So you can do this on your phone. The website works on the phone or go on the computer. If you're not sure of your Latin long, it's pretty easy to get on here and find where you're at. So this is Isla Blanca Park. The lab is right here by this traffic circle, and we sampled about right there on the beach. And so when I click on the beach in front, the longitude and latitude popped up. So I would put my name, the email, and the organization. So I would put UTRGV Coastal Studies Lab. Maybe you will use your school name. You do 10 minutes, you'd write how many you collected, and then whether or not you were in the new tide line or an old tide line, or maybe up by the dunes. So that's what this new strand line means. And Jace talks about that in the 101 video, and I also mentioned the tides in our Nurdle Patrol. Okay, so I have just enough time to share with you our video from our Nurdle Patrol out here at the Coastal Studies Lab. So I will go ahead and stop sharing that. Oh, real quick, I will show our contact info. So our website, utrgv.edu/CSL. We have Facebook, Instagram, and our email and phone number is there. So enjoy our Nurdle Patrol and hope to see you guys out there, and happy Earth Day. Thanks.
Okay, hello everyone. I am out here at the Isla Blanca Park, out in front of the Coastal Studies Lab, which is right behind me. Looking behind me this way is our jetties. And so we're out here today doing our Nurdle Patrol right in the tide line. So if you notice the seaweed, that's our friend Chancey. She's a graduate student here, and she's out there searching for the nurdles in the tide line. So normally where you see the seaweed is where the last high tide was. All right, so Chancey is here searching for the nurdles. Just found this one here, another one, a third one. And remember, your sampling effort is for 10 minutes. And sometimes you do have to dig around a bit in the seaweed because it could be buried. Often we see other microplastics and little styrofoam balls. Let's see if we find any styrofoam too. Here's what the nurdles look like. So the nurdles are hard and round. So there might be a lot of seaweed. Okay, there's a styrofoam piece there. So you want to make sure to feel what you're picking up and make sure it's a nurdle. We lost one in the wind. It does happen. There's our little nurdle. Okay. Of course, there's other microplastic out here. We see a straw from some drinks. There's like confetti as well. Here's some plastic. You can see how brittle this is. This is how plastics break down and turn into microplastics. All right, we'll give you one more look here. Chancey found another. So yeah, right here in all this seaweed, you know, you might not have to travel far. If you find a lot in one spot, there's seaweed to dig through. Just keep on looking, just like Chancey is here. She's finding lots of nurdles buried in this tide line here. You see, we're going into low tide. The water's out here, and the seaweed is up here at this line.
We wanted to thank Ms. Shelby Bessette for her presentation, and I hope that for those of you who enjoy going to do beach cleanups, that now you have another activity that you can do, and you can do it all from your phone, which is to do this nurdle patrol. You just have to dedicate 10 minutes of searching for these nurdles and sending all your information over on your phone over to the Nurdle Patrol. It allows them to really capture what is going on if there's been a major spill of nurdles, so that they can get out there to figure out how they can do some sort of a cleanup so that those nurdles are not affecting all those creatures, you know, all the life below water. So thank you for, again, staying with us. We have another short video before we wrap up for today, and I think you'll enjoy this. Again, it is about life below water and what is happening in all coastal areas, not just that of our South Padre Island. So this is from Tracy Rogers, and I'm going to let Jeremy put this video on, and then we'll start wrapping up. I have several things to share with you so that you can join us tomorrow and this evening for a movie, and we'll wrap up after this. So thank you. And Jeremy, if you could please share this video. Thanks.
The UN Sustainable Development Goal 14 aims to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. So how are we doing? Well, many marine species, habitats, and ecosystems have suffered catastrophic declines, and climate change further undermines ocean productivity and biodiversity. Did you know that a substantial fraction of the coastal ocean suffers from pollution, eutrophication, and oxygen depletion? Our oceans are stressed by warming, and many marine species are threatened with extinction. I'm Tracy Rogers, and I'm a professor of ecology. I'm at UNSW in the School of Biological, Earth and Environmental Sciences. Let's look at the first of the key targets, which is to reduce marine pollution. Around 8 million metric tons of plastic enters our oceans each year. This is equivalent to 16 shopping bags full of plastic for every metre of coastline, excluding Antarctica. So we're not doing so good. In fact, the rate at which plastic finds its way into our ocean is increasing, and by 2025, it's predicted that we will be putting enough plastic in the ocean to cover 5% of the Earth's entire surface in cling wrap. That's each year. So does it matter that there's so much plastic in the ocean? Globally, about 1/3 of all turtles are likely to have eaten plastic in some form. But lots of marine animals mistake plastic for food, such as seals, fish, and whales. At least 690 marine species have been documented to have encountered with plastic marine debris. Either they've eaten it or they've become entangled in it. And of those species, at least 17% are vulnerable, listed as either near threatened, endangered, or critically endangered. Seabirds such as albatross, gannets, shearwaters, and petrels are particularly vulnerable. Unfortunately, many of these seabirds are already at risk. So where is this plastic coming from? All over the world. The darker the colour of this figure, the more mismanaged plastic that country has. So more likely their plastic will end up in the ocean. Gold star for New Zealand, Namibia, Oman, the Scandinavians, and the Canadians. But it doesn't matter who produces this marine plastic, because once it's in the ocean, it travels in ocean gyres around the world. Inside the gyres, the water is stationary, and it's here that plastics accumulate. Over time, garbage patches form, and the most well-known is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. But there's a garbage patch in each of our ocean basins. What can we do about it? Well, how about your weekly shop? The container your apples come in, or the plastic bag that you put them in. These are single-use plastics. So how do I get out of the shop without using any of these single-use plastics? Well, for a start, those plastic bags. 1 trillion single-use plastic bags were made globally in 2019. Replacing them with reusable bags is an easy start, and one we're all embracing anyway. Lots of countries have banned plastic bags already. Rwanda did this back in 2008. Bottled water. In Australia, We use 118,000 tonnes of single-use water bottles every year, and that's just Australia. By the way, our tap water is fine, often better tasting than the stuff you buy in a bottle, unless you live in Adelaide, or if you're buying that lovely Norwegian water, but you get my meaning. So replacing bottled water with your own reusable bottle, and if councils provide water taps around town, this easily eliminates another 200,000 tonnes of plastic every year. All we need is a couple of public taps. But managing our waste is also important. Did you know that only about 40% of those plastic bottles are recycled? The rest go to landfill or to our waterways. A discarded water bottle will take at least 1,000 years to biodegrade, but that doesn't mean it's gone, just that it's broken down into thousands, even millions of tiny pieces, into microplastics that can make their way into our food and water. A second key target is to reduce ocean acidification. So what is ocean acidification? As our activities have pushed more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, lucky for us, a great deal of this extra carbon dioxide has dissolved into seawater. The oceans have been like a giant sponge, absorbing up to 30, even 40% of our extra carbon emissions. But what happens when this extra carbon dioxide dissolves into seawater? Well, the carbon dioxide and water molecules reconfigure, and they make carbonic acid. But many marine creatures use calcium carbonate to make their shells and skeletons. In more acidic oceans, they can't do this. They can't make those shells properly. Now, from blue whales to plankton, the oceanic food web is complex. And although plankton are tiny, they are vital for many of the species higher up on the food chain. If these tiny plants and animals at the base of the food chain can't make their shells, this will have a flow-on effect that will change the very composition of our oceans. Another of the key targets is to fish sustainably. Yet, at least 1/3 of our fish stocks are overfished, and 1/3 to half of vulnerable marine habitats have been lost. What can we do? Well, buying locally caught fish rather than imported fish. This means not only can you find out where your seafood was caught, whether it's caught in a sustainable fashion, it will also taste better. Where you buy tinned or imported seafood, check the labels for how it was caught. Read the label carefully. If you're buying tuna, see what type of tuna you're about to buy, as some species are endangered. Only buy seafood with labeling that tells you what the species is, where it was caught, and how it's been caught. And a way to do this more easily is to buy seafood that has the Marine Stewardship certification, an MSC tick. The MSC labeling enables all products to have total traceability. This means you can track what you buy from catch to plate, as it is packed and frozen on the boat. This is an easy way to make sure you're eating seafood taken from a sustainable fishery. Achieving Sustainable Development Goal 14 is achievable. We can conserve and sustainably use our oceans, seas, and marine ecosystems. Biodiversity losses in the ocean are less pronounced than those on land, and many marine species are capable of recovery once pressures are reduced or removed. However, achieving this goal will require rebuilding marine life as the life support systems, the populations, the marine habitats, and the ecosystems that deliver the many benefits society receives from our healthy oceans.
We hope you enjoyed that video. We left this video for last precisely because it touches on some of the things that we can do here locally to really help achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 14, especially since we have a coastal area, since we love and eat a lot of fish here in this area, to really pay attention and to support our local economy by eating fish that is locally caught, and also to start paying attention to the way we consume when we purchase and we go out to purchase fish, ask the question where it came from and to make sure that we're trying to support, sustainable fishing as well. So thank you so much for joining us with this. We have another video which is called Turning the Tide.
Hello, my name is Tegan Yardley. Did you know that our planet's oceans are in crisis? Life below water has sustained human civilization and development for millennia. Yet, human activities are annihilating the ecology of our oceans. They clean our air, produce more than 70% of the oxygen that we breathe, help feed the world, govern our weather, and provide a living for millions of people. In many parts of the world, marine ecosystems have been irreversibly damaged, and we have lost 50% of all marine life in the past 40 years. The ability for our oceans to continue to sustain life on Earth is at the brink of collapse. The biggest threats to our ocean's marine species are:
we are removing marine life from our oceans at an unsustainable rate. In the past 50 years, human activities have decimated our ocean's top predators. Overfishing disrupts the marine food chain and causes a shift in the ocean's ecosystem, and the consequences extend to all living organisms along the chain. Illegal and destructive fishing practices include bottom trawling, bycatch, sonar, and the use of poison and explosives.
The illegal trade in marine species is a lucrative business. Human greed drives this practice to satisfy our demands for exotic foods, trinkets, entertainment, pets, and cosmetics.
Fragile marine habitats are the victims of dredging, chemical runoff, and inland dams. Bottom trawling is destroying seafloor life. Deforestation is creating erosion which sends silt into shallow waters, blocking sunlight and affecting the ability of coral reefs to survive. With over 25% of all marine species living in coral reefs, their loss would be catastrophic. And 75% of the world's coral reefs are already threatened.
Plastic waste, oil spills, carbon emissions, and toxic waste such as sewage, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, and detergents all contribute to the decline in health of our oceans and their inhabitants. Each year, approximately 13 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans, and thousands of marine species are killed when they ingest or become entangled in these plastics that litter our oceans.
The burning of fossil fuels not only pollutes our air, it warms and acidifies our oceans, which absorb approximately 22 million tons of carbon dioxide each day, protecting us from global warming. Warming waters also drive entire groups of marine species toward cooler waters, which results in a loss of breeding grounds and affects the breeding success of marine species.
Our oceans are acidifying faster than they have in approximately 300 million years. Acidification leads to a decreased ability for many marine species such as plankton to build their shells and skeletons. The loss of zooplankton would produce a cascade of extinction that affects species all the way up the food chain. Acidification also leads to the bleaching of coral, which slows their growth and makes them vulnerable to algae, disease, and death.
Our planet's marine species are sitting on the precipice of a mass extinction if we do not take action to avert such a catastrophe. Human activities are causing oceans to lose their ability to nourish and protect life within them, which in turn will be devastating for the life that depends on them. This encompasses all life on Earth, including yours and mine, but it is not too late to change the course that we are on.
We all have the power to educate ourselves and others.
We all have the power to be responsible citizens.
We all have the power to change the way we think and act.
We all have the power to spread the word.
We all have the power to do something, and the worst thing we can do is nothing.
If not me, then who?
If not me, who? If not me, then who?
If not me, then who?
We do want to invite you tonight. We have the second film that we are screening for this week, which is The Brave Blue World. It is a movie that's narrated by Matt Damon, and it is an incredible movie that, again, speaks about what is happening to our brave blue world, specifically when we are looking at water and our oceans and some of the things we need to consider as we move forward. So we hope that you will join us for that movie. It is from 6 to 8 p.m. We do have the link to this particular movie on the website. I'm not sure, Jeremy, if you have that link that you could share in the chat so that everyone can save that link and make sure to join us later this evening. So we will be moving forward, and tomorrow we will be looking at Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which is climate action. And we have another great series of presentations for you for tomorrow, looking at climate action and what it is doing, how it is affecting our campus, how it is affecting our communities, and some of the things we can do to shift and actually reduce our carbon footprint as we consider climate action. Thursday night, tomorrow night, we have another movie which speaks on climate action called Inhabitants, Indigenous Perspectives on Restoring Our World. This is a critically acclaimed documentary. It has won many awards, so we hope that you will put it on your list. As I mentioned before, I think it'd be great for everybody to get their favorite snack or popcorn and join us every evening starting tonight and watch these incredible movies. We also want to encourage you to check out the sustainability website. We have a series called Sustainability Adelante. In that series, we have podcasts, we have films, and we have TikTok videos. So please check all of these out. Again, this is a week of Earth Fest, so we have a movie each night. We started with our first film yesterday. Tonight we have The Brave Blue World, and then a Thursday night, Inhabitants, and Friday, which is actually Earth Day, we have a live face-to-face activity over at the Brownsville campus, which is the Pollinator Day celebration. And that evening, we will be screening My Garden of 1,000 Bees, which is an amazing documentary that we hope you will join us and watch. We also encourage you to take the Sustainability Pledge. The whole purpose of this week is for us to interact with you and to hopefully get you to move forward with a sustainability lifestyle and starting to change some of those habits, taking baby steps and trying to live a much healthier and happier lifestyle through sustainability. If you take the pledge, please share your email address so we can send you a certificate. So you can put that certificate up somewhere where you can see it on a regular basis to remind you that you are on this journey with all of us. And you don't have to be a vaquero to do so. If you are a community member, we're happy to send you a certificate as well. So please join in and take the Sustainability Pledge and become a sustainable development leader. I want to thank you all for coming back to us today through this week of Earth Fest. I want to thank all our attendees, presenters, and community partners for their continued dedication and commitment in support of education for sustainable development. Earth Fest is brought to you by the School of Earth, Environmental, and Marine Sciences and the Office for Sustainability in partnership with the Division of Finance and Planning, Division of Research, and the Office of Engaged Scholarship, Community Engagement, Upward Bound, and Gear Up. I also want to thank all the staff and office assistants, grad assistants, and interns from the Office for Sustainability. It takes a lot of work and dedication to put these programs together, from the graphic design to video production, the podcasts, and our website, which looks amazing. All this is coming to you from students that work here at the Office for Sustainability. So I want to thank them because they do an amazing job each and every year. Lastly, I'd like to leave you with this so that you can connect with us on social media. So if you can, please, take a photograph, a screenshot, whatever works for you. So you have these QR codes to connect to our Facebook, our Instagram, our SoundCloud, which is where you can find all our podcasts, and YouTube. We will be posting this recording up on YouTube. After the week is over, we'll have all 5 days up. In case you missed anything, you have the ability to go back and watch the recording. Thank you all again so much. We hope to see you tonight at 6 o'clock, and have a happy day. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the day. It looks like the weather is clearing up a little bit and getting a little nicer. So we hope that you enjoy and reconnect with nature, and we get to see you tomorrow again. So thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you this evening.